All right, in today's episode, guys, football is here. We're going to do some takeaways in week one, and we're going to talk to you about starts and sits for week two. We got a little news and notes for you, so we're going to get you everything you need for week two. Let's do it. All right. Welcome to the show. This is the Frankie Fantasy Football Podcast. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. Frankie, we got to see some goddamn football this week, man. We got to see
some football, man. Whether we may, personally may have struggled a little bit, for the last few days and just, probably for the rest of our lives. But that's okay. Being Browns fans, there was a lot of good football on, John.
A lot of good football, man. All right, so here's one thing we're going to do. I'm on location. I'm not in my typical studio, obviously.
Right.
One thing we're going to do, we're going to play a little game. I travel a lot for work. This is my big, heavy travel season. Starting off right now, week one, recap. I'm in a different city. I want you to guess the city I'm in here, Frank. The city I'm in is the football team in this city is leading their division, and they didn't score a touchdown. They're the only team in their division to have a victory, and they have not scored a fucking touchdown at all. What city am I in, Frank?
John, I feel like you need to almost put on a cap or something. Talk to me a little bit, baby. That gross fucking yellow and black. You sack of shit.
Johnny's in Pittsburgh. I know. This one, shout out to Sean, my brother. My whole family thinks I'm mentally ill for owning a Pittsburgh Steelers cap. I know. I get it. It's okay. Hey, I'm going to be in a lot of different cities throughout the whole football season, and I'll do a different one every time. It just happened to be Pittsburgh is where I'm starting off. So, sorry.
I mean, hey, man, it's not like you might as well go with the Pittsburgh cap because we're already wearing black for a fucking funeral we had to watch over at the Browns Stadium. So, yeah, man, it's cool. Just add on, a little bit more salt in an open wound here. It's fine. Not a big deal.
And we've got our typical black uniforms on. We're the NPCs. This is the NPC podcast. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And thank you so much for following us on social media. The social media following has been awesome. We've had so much fun interacting with everybody. But make sure, please follow us, guys. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok at Frankly Fantasy Football, and on X at Frankly Fantasy F. Frankie, we got a lot to talk about today, man. We had week one. We got to see what happened in week one. All this prep, all this talk we've had, we finally get to see it on the field. Now, I will say it was weird. Week one, Kyle Brandt, Good Morning Football. Week one's a liar. It is a liar. So let's try to figure out, Frank, in this episode here, what was a lie? What was not a lie? What can we count on? What's just a week one? Wipe it off, wash it off. It's not really going to happen. Let's talk a little bit about that. But first, guys, we've got a new partnership we want to talk about here. We're really excited about this. We want to announce our partnership with BetStamp and Sign-Up Expert. Opens an incredible opportunity for you guys to join some of our favorite sports books. Frankie and I, we love to get on Sundays. We love to get on Thursdays. We love to get on Mondays, put a few bets in, get a couple, daily fantasy lineups in. We love this shit, man. Come to our favorite sports books. Get the best odds and new user offers, guys. Head over to the dedicated page at signupexpert.com/frankly to explore the selection of sports books tailored to your region, each with unique offerings. Take advantage of these offerings, guys. If you're ready to take your sports betting to the next level and show some love for our brand, the Frankly Fantasy family, I highly recommend signing up for your next sports book through Sign-Up Expert link. You can easily find it in the description of the video and all of our shorts, or you can go to signupexpert.com/frankly. All right, man, let's talk a little bit about some takeaways here. Okay. We've got to talk about week one. We got to talk about some things we saw. All right. What did we see here? I mean, first of all, what I want to say is that it was really sluggish, dude. It was really sluggish. The passing games were sluggish. The offenses were sluggish. We didn't have as many touchdowns. Just looking back in previous years, 2 years ago, we had, I think it was like 61 or 62 touchdowns. This year in week one, we only had like 30 some touchdowns. We had almost half the amount of touchdowns in week one. What do you think a lot of this is, man? What do you think some of this week one debacle is?
John, I think a lot of it, I think it really comes down to two key factors. Number one is I think the quarterback play is much less than we've seen in years. I mean, for a very, very, very long time, you're going back, to even the 70s, early 80s, 90s, 2000s. I mean, as recent as, the Drew Brees era with Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, right? Aaron Rodgers in their prime time. Ben Roethlisberger, we have been spoiled with phenomenal quarterback play. And right now, man, we're in a changing of the guard. And that's what it feels. It's uncomfortable. There's a lot of change happening. So that is number one. There's a lot of change happening with quarterbacks across the landscape, outside of obviously that of Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, etc. Okay, the second biggest thing, John, is the preseason, right? We used to have 4 games. Now we moved it to 3. It's the blessing and the curse. Blessing is players don't have to play as many games. Curse is the players are not ready to come out week 1 and run full go. It's a huge issue. We're seeing it on Monday night with Aaron Rodgers, right? Doesn't play basically at all. We're seeing it with Deshaun Watson, who literally didn't step on the field during the preseason and comes out looking like dog shit. We're seeing it with Kirk Cousins, right? Coming off an injury who didn't barely play, right? We're seeing it across the NFL. And so to your point, man, I actually think that's why the touchdowns are so much less. But what's interesting is the field goals. This is the largest or most amount of field goals over 50 yards kicked in years. I'm talking years, potentially ever. So really, really interesting to see what's happening from that side of things.
Basically, what we're seeing is that week 1 is actually the preseason week 4, where or week 3, that used to be the dress rehearsal. Week 1's kind of like that now. It's not good for these guys. And the contract disputes. Look at all of the guys who had contract disputes.
Good point.
They all struggled because they were not in camp. They were not on the goddamn field. And guess what? They were first round fucking picks for you and they didn't perform. Jamar Chase, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, CeeDee Lamb was fine. He was okay. That was the Browns.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, it is a problem, man. So the preseason's really goddamn annoying, man. There's a couple of teams. Are we freaking out about these teams? Should we be terrified, worried, or are they okay? Or were they just playing great defenses? I'm talking about the Browns. I'm talking about the Falcons. And I'm talking about the Bengals, man. These are all teams with giant expectations that laid a fucking turd on Sunday. What are you thinking?
John,
is the answer all of the above? What's the answer?
No. For me, man, I think that there's somewhere that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. What I mean by that is I think the Falcons are going to be fine. I think that they have a newly bolstered defense. You bring in Matthew Judon. You have a few other key players, Terrell and others in the secondary that are going to be awesome. It's just going to take time. Okay. And on top of it, Kirk Cousins coming off of an Achilles. Dude hasn't played in weeks on a brand new team. There's no JJ. There's yes, Drake London is there. Yes, Bijan is there. Yes, Pitts is there. But the reality is it's not what he had in Minnesota. So we need to really level set expectations moving forward. Though I do think they're still going to be solid. So I'm not tripping about the Falcons. Browns make me nervous. Browns make me nervous because of how poorly Deshaun Watson played. And it's not just the way he played on the field. It was the misreads. He wasn't even reading the defense properly. Now, again, things came out to where his dad had died. Another allegation is coming out. All sorts of shit is coming about. So there's a lot of other things playing into this outside of football. But if you're just looking at football X's and O's, I think that the Browns are in a serious predicament here because do you start thinking about Jameis? It's too early because of the contract dispute that he has right now, or with, we're going to have to pay him $72 million over the next 2 years after this year per year, $72 million per year for the next 2 years after this year. So for me, man, I'm nervous about the Browns. I'm not ready to hit the panic button because to your point, they played a hell of a defense. They played one hell of a defense in Dallas. So I'm definitely a little sketched out. I'm not hitting the panic button. If I'm a Bengal fan, John, that third team, I'm hitting the fucking panic button. You just got destroyed. I don't care what the score says. You got destroyed by arguably a bottom 4 team in the NFL, not division, not like, a conglomerate of them. It's that team is a bottom 4 team. And so you're telling me even without T. Higgins and even without Tyler Boyd now as a Titan, you still had Jamar Chase on the field. And props to you, dude. Props to Jamar Chase for stepping on that field, knowing, he totally needs to be getting paid, guys. I mean, I get it. The contract stuff is happening, but the dude's getting paid $1 million a year. Come on. What the fuck are we talking about? So let's get the guy paid. Let's get him out there playing. But the issue, John, was Joe Burrow looked like dog shit, right? Joe Burrow should be able to shoulder that based on what he's getting paid, $55 million a year, based on him being already going to a Super Bowl within the allotted amount of time he's been in the NFL, and him still having Jamar Chase as well as Zach Moss, so on and so forth. You should have been better. Shame on you. So if I'm a Bengals fan, man, and hats off to the Patriots, good work, but I'm tripping a bit.
I agree, man. I'm with you. Let me tell you who you're not tripping as bad as, though. What about the Broncos and the Panthers? I mean, is that full-on panic alarm right now for both of these teams?
I mean, John, you're screaming at the rooftop of dismay. I mean, you are like freaking out. If you're not, you're screwed up in the head. If you're a Carolina Panther fan, I feel really bad for you because literally it's worthless. Everybody on that team, honestly, man, is playing like dog shit. And they just lost their best overall player in Derek Brown, their top defensive tackle. So now imagine what running backs are going to be able to do even more so. So yeah, dude. And then the Broncos have a rookie quarterback. They have a lot of young talent, right? Sean Payton's trying to turn the Titanic at an alarming speed. And it's going to take some time, but absolutely hitting panic button there, especially within the division that they're in, AFC West.
Man, unless they have an incredibly juicy, I mean, the juiciest of matchups, if they could play themselves, I would start some of them, but they can't do that, obviously. But at this point, the Broncos and Panthers, anybody on those teams, they're on hold for me.
Totally.
They're on hold for me. I'm not starting these guys right now. I need to see something out of that Panthers office before I'm throwing Deontay Johnson out there. He's got to be benched, right?
I mean,
until they actually get some fucking passing offense going, anything.
It's bad. It's so bad, dude.
All right, let's talk. You want to talk bad? Let's talk about some tight ends here, guys. Okay, tight ends. We spend all this time in the offseason talking about the tight ends, talking all who are we drafting in the top 12, all the shit. Let me tell you a fun fact about week 1. Every single one of the tight ends in the top 12 that were drafted to be starters on your team, only one of them was in double digits this week.
Who is that one?
Kyle Pitts.
Hitting out, baby. Hitting out. We called it. Hop on board. Get you some.
Unbelievable. Although seeing that Kyle Pitts touchdown, I just went, oh, this might be a thing. Holy shit. Oh my God.
It's like that Chris Pratt meme where he goes, yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah, like everybody, like what? He had like 1 or 2 touchdowns last year or some shit like that. Like, and then he has 1 in his first game. Yeah, dude, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, so tight ends are a shit show, guys, here, okay? Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. All right, we need to take a few victory laps, okay? I know it's only week 1, and I said week 1's a liar. However, when it works in your favor, I want to talk about it. All right, let's talk about a few guys here that, I'm sorry, they're the dudes. I know week 1's a small sample, but what we saw was fucking beautiful. Joe Mixon. Let's talk about Joe Mixon, man. Joe Mixon, I'm telling you, I know everybody loves the receivers. Joe Mixon is the most important part of that offense right now. I'm telling you it is. Just like he was in Cincinnati. And guess who's missing Joe Mixon right now?
Real bad.
It's fucking Cincinnati. Having that solid foundation, that guy that can work between the tackles, that can work on the outside in the passing game. They don't have that right now, and they're missing that. But man, the Texans are loving it. Is he fit there or what, buddy?
Oh, dude, he's amazing. Are you kidding me, John? In every mock draft, we were looking at him when the 3rd round came around. We were like, we're safe. We can go down the list a bit, and that's who you're targeting. The value that you got on Joe Mixon in your drafts, and now watching him have over 150 total yards or 140 total yards from scrimmage that game is just so good. And it's only going to get better. Like, to your point, man, like the offense has got to run through Joe Mixon because that's what's opening up everything else. And so now you can't just, stack the box on Joe because you got 3 number ones you got to worry about. 3 real number ones in Diggs, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins. I mean, and then you layer on Dalton Schultz as a red zone terror. And so, dude, I'm with you, man. I think that we hit gold by talking him up. And in addition, watching him play, it's going to be so fun.
Speaking of Stefan Diggs, big game.
Big game.
Couple tutties there, man. I mean, are you all right? Let's talk about this because I haven't been a big Diggs guy. I don't think either of us really have been a big Diggs guy over the offseason here. A lot of mouths to feed. Nico Collins did look great.
Looked great.
Yeah. So what do you do with Diggs right now? Is this a guy you grab? Maybe you grabbed him and you're like, I didn't love Diggs, but I took him because he was the best available receiver. Do you try to move him at this point?
No. For me, I'm sitting and waiting for a few more weeks. I want to actually see who starts rising to the top a bit because where you drafted Diggs, more than likely he's not your receiver 1. So really see how his receiver 2 status could come to play. You could legitimately end up having another receiver 1 on your team. And my fear would be if you try to sell him right now, because you're selling him high, but people aren't necessarily believing Diggs being that solidified number 1 yet. And so that's why you can wait and get peak value in a few weeks, assuming he continues a decent trend. I'm not saying 2 touchdowns every week, but I'm saying 6 targets, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 6 receptions, 70 plus yards and a tutty. That's going to be really sexy. So for me, man, I'm sitting and waiting. But again, shout out to that of Tank Dell as well and Nico Collins, man. I mean, they really, really did look solid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think it's going to be a crapshoot. You're going to have 2 of the 3 guys that are going to do well each week. And you're not going to know who it's going to be. We've seen that. We've played that game before, and I think that's what we're going to see here. Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley, 3 touchdowns, man. Welcome to fucking Philly, Saquon Barkley. I love recapping, looking at some of these guys that were new faces and new places that we talked about that were in such good positions and are, just we loved them. And Joe Mixon was one. Saquon Barkley was another one. So that was beautiful to see. How about another guy? Let's take another little victory lap of a guy that we were saying, regardless of the injury, we knew this guy was going to be back and we loved it. Cooper Kupp, just slobber on him, Frank.
We were all over this, dude. We were all over this. And even though, dude, I remember, so for those listening and watching, Johnny and I, fun fact, we're actually in something called a battle of the brands. Okay. It's where there was a shit ton of brands that were out there that have podcasts that do fantasy football. They narrowed it down to a select few. We were fortunate enough to get selected. It's a 14-man league, and we are co-managing the shit out of this team. Now, what's really cool, dude, and for those listening and watching, is that Cooper Kupp fell to us. Now, it's a super flex type of format, right? Cooper Kupp fell to us in round 5, and we're sitting there, and we had to decide to take him over DK Metcalf. And John, you and I were like, it doesn't matter. If he is on the board there, we're fucking taking him 100% because we need a ceiling play. And damn it, John, who ended up having the ceiling play of the week, baby? And now Puka's down. You end up getting Matt Stafford, who has to throw the ball. They're down all these offensive linemen. They're not going to be able to move the ball on the ground as effectively as what they have because they're down their left tackle, their backup left tackle, their right tackle, their starting guard. That's all legit. They lost all of that in the week 1. And so now Stafford's going to need to get it out quick. And where does Cooper Kupp win? In the short and medium game. And dude, I'm telling you, it's only going to get better. So I am all about Cooper Kupp, man.
Love it, man. 21 goddamn target.
21
You gotta
targets.
love that, man. You gotta love that. Say it again.
21 targets. 21.
All right, man. Let's talk about another thing that we came on. We did a handcuff episode. We came back out and we said, whoa, we need to amend this because things have changed.
Yep.
We have a clear handcuff for CMC. Holy shit, did that guy deliver, man. Jordan Mason. And we told everyone, if you're a CMC owner, you must draft this guy. If you're not a CMC owner, you must draft this guy. So I know a lot of crazy shit happened with CMC not starting, Jordan Mason playing. Hopefully you were the CMC owner that had Mason. If you weren't, God, those guys had to be smiling so big, man. Had to be smiling so big. All right, great game out of him. Marvin Harrison Jr., Frankie. I have on my notes, MHJ WTF.
Yep.
What happened there, man?
Honestly, John, it's going to take a minute. In my personal opinion, it's going to take a minute. Kyler missed him on a wide open touchdown. Kyler missed him on 2 other throws that were really, really bad throws. So for me, it's just going to take a minute to get on the same page. But the good news is, don't panic, guys. And the other thing, I had so many people reaching out to me, do not sell Marvin Harrison Jr. yet. What are you thinking? Like, hold that value. Hold this guy. We're overreacting on 1 week. Kyler Murray, he's his sole number one. Yes, Michael Wilson scored. Yes, Greg Dortch got involved. Chill, breathe. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be fine. It's just going to take a few weeks.
All right, I know you're heavily invested in the Detroit Lions, Frankie.
Yeah.
So what we saw some shit. Okay.
Yeah,
we
we
saw
did.
some shit. The running backs are great. Let's talk a little bit about the receivers. Amon-Ra and Jamison Williams. What are we doing moving forward?
Yeah, you're firing them all up is what it is. And you're going to be fucking miserable if you have Amon-Ra St. Brown in 3 leagues. Okay? You're going to be miserable, just like all of us. No, it's going to figure itself out. I hope to God. I mean, he had 6 targets. JMO, I mean, here's the deal, man. We called it. JMO, this is his breakout year. He's looked great in training camp. He's the perfect 2 to that of Amon-Ra, because Amon-Ra is going to tear up the short, medium routes. JMO's taking the top off in the deep routes. So for me, this is the yin and yang that the Lions have been needing in their offense. And here's the deal. You got to give flowers to Jamison Williams. He got the game ball. It's super exciting. Amon-Ra is going to bounce back. Don't expect like what happened, will happen consistently for that of Amon-Ra. So for me, man, what this tells me though is JMO, David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, no matter what, 100% always need to be fired up, including, as I mentioned, JMO.
Yeah, it was very clear watching that game and going through back and watching it a second time. They very clearly had a game plan of taking Amon-Ra out of the game.
Totally.
And I don't think they accounted. They were like, holy shit, who's this guy? Who's got this guy? We're focused here. Who's Jamison Williams? What's going on here? He had a great game, man. So you may see that even out a bit. I think teams are going to now pay attention to Jamison Williams a lot more.
Got to respect him.
And it's going to open things up for Amon-Ra. So I'm not worried about it there. But great to see Jamison Williams being an actual playable piece on your team, man. I love that shit. All right, let's get to the news, baby.
News and notes.
All right, first piece of news. It's old news, but it's news. Got to talk about it a second. CMC was inactive for Monday Night Football. A little bit of a surprise for everybody. Frankie, we've got some weird talk on Monday and Tuesday here about CMC. What's the outlook moving forward? It doesn't sound very cut and dry.
It's not cut and dry, and it's actually kind of sketch, dude. And for those who have him, get ready, buckle up, because he has Achilles tendonitis. And so what that typically means on average, now again, CMC is not average, but typically it's roughly about a 2-month recovery. So whether that's on the early end of the 2 months, whether that's on the back end of the 2 months, either way, if it truly is this, guys, this is going to be miserable. On top of it, Jordan Mason looked incredible. We just mentioned that. So they're not looking to rush CMC back. So what that means is stay course. If you can, definitely pick up Jordan Mason. This waiver wire pickup on Thursday coming up here, guys. If your waivers are set for Wednesday night to go through into Thursday, and honestly, just wait and see, because this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, it's a little scary. You draft the guy first overall, can't use him in week 1. You watch his backup go absolutely apeshit, and then you get word that he could be out longer.
Yeah.
Yikes. Would you say if you don't have Jordan Mason, would you try to move CMC to somebody who doesn't know that it could be longer?
With this new news, maybe. Typically, I would say no. I would just say, same thing with Marvin Harrison Jr., right? No, stay course is going to be fine. This is a bit sketch. So for a guy who might be kind of loaded in the running back with some depth, I might be targeting him. I might be targeting him as a potential trade, get you a super solid, top 15, top 12 RB right now, and then get another solid receiver piece or something like that. Yeah, I might end up taking that, but you still got to get something for him. Don't just sell him for nothing at this point, right? So Yeah, but either way, man, it's gonna be a bitch.
All right, we got some injuries here. Let's talk about a couple of these guys that went down. Jordan Love, really unfortunate, man. I mean, just so much hype.
I mean,
You want to talk about the hype train? The hype train was running through Green Bay this year, man. I mean, a lot of people picking them to be dark horse Super Bowl picks. Young ass team, great receivers. Jordan Love's out. Went down late in the game, sprained MCL. So it's better news than what it could have been for sure.
mhm.
But he's going to be out a while, guys. We're not really sure. They're not really giving us a timetable. Typically, when people talk about that injury, they're usually saying 3 to 6
Yep.
weeks. Typically, is what you're looking at. But they're not really committing to anything here. So I don't know if they're just playing a game with us or what. But he is going to be out for a little while. There's no chance he's coming back. What does this do moving forward? I mean, it kills the goddamn receivers, man. Kills them. You've got Malik Willis
Ugh.
as the backup. And he's bad.
He's so bad.
He's only been on the team for a short period of time as well. So there's no chance he's coming in and going to roll, right?
No, dude, we saw him in Tennessee and he got his real shot. He got a legitimate shot and it was bad. I mean, it was bad. I mean, outside of maybe a rushing floor that he might have, it's terrible. And so for me, man, I think the one thing that you can take away from this is maybe this will pique some of the tight ends a bit more. And number two is Josh Jacobs is going to get the rock. So if you do have Josh Jacobs, this actually might be in your benefit, even though defenses now can spy on it. However, from a fantasy perspective, I would expect his touches to go up much more than what they were with Jordan Love.
Agreed. Puka Nacua went down. That sucks, man. PCL injury. He's is going to be placed on the IR, so it's at least 4 weeks out for Puka Nacua. What other options on that passing offense, Frankie? I know you're a psychopath. You've been on the waiver wire already. What are some of the options that you're looking at that you could pick up to replace Puka?
Yeah. Number one is, guys, Tyler Johnson. For those of you who do not know who Tyler Johnson is, this is that cat that played in that slot. He ended up having 7 targets, caught 5 of them for 79 yards, and had one hell of a move on the outside where he literally caught the ball, stopped on a dime, reversed course, and went for another basically 30 yards down the field. So guys, he could absolutely be a big time player if you need more of a ceiling play. The other guy is Demarcus Robinson. I mean, this is Mr. Consistency, as crazy as this sounds. We saw him at at the Chiefs, ends up coming down to the Rams. And what's interesting about him, John, is he also saw 7 targets. 7 targets. He caught 4 of them for 42 yards. So for me, if you're needing a player, one of those guys are going to be solid. In addition to that of Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford he threw the ball 49 times. Man, I mean, that's going to continue.
Yeah.
And so for me, try to pick up Tyler Johnson, try to pick up Demarcus Robinson. You can get Demarcus Robinson a little bit cheaper. And I actually think it's a better floor play. So check out both those guys.
A lot of MCLs, PCLs, a lot of knee issues going on in week 1 here. Roma Dunze as well, the wide receiver for the Chicago Bears, has an MCL sprain. He's week to week right now. I don't think this is a guy you're looking at putting out there, but it's a guy you're watching. He's week to week at the moment. So yeah, that's what you're looking at. Josh Allen clear to practice after a hand injury. Good to go there. Browns, irrelevant signing of the week. Browns signing Kadarius Toney. That's your boy, Frankie. Are you really happy and excited about that?
So excited. I can't even breathe. I'm so happy.
I can't even think of anything that is more fantasy irrelevant than that news right there. Steelers prepping. Steelers, baby. Prepping Justin Fields to start versus the Broncos. I think it's just because Justin Fields was fine. They won the game. They're going to play defense and run the ball and kick 6 fucking field goals every game. And they might as well let Russ heal is pretty much, I think, what's going on there. Jake Ferguson, Turd Ferguson, tight end for the Dallas Cowboys, sprained MCL. He's going to miss some time, but it's not season ending. He may try to suit up depending on how he feels. What kind of news is that? He may try.
I know.
He's got a sprained MCL. He's going to miss a lot of time, but not the whole season. But he may play this week.
Hey, man.
That's the weirdest news I've ever seen.
Crazy, because he ended up, so there was a news that came out that he was talking to Dak, and Dak literally basically was getting a gut check and wanted to make sure. And he was telling Dak, hey, he's good to go. So, initially it was hey, it's probably looking around that 3 to 4 week mark. Now they're saying it could be 1 to 2 weeks and he's back. Now it could say, depending on how he practices this week, We'll see how it pans out. Realistically, guys, expect Jake Ferguson to at least be out 1 to 2 weeks. I would assume that if he comes back before that, it's just gravy on top. And he is a serious weapon for Dak. So keep your eyes peeled for what's going on with Jake Ferguson as the week progresses.
All right, that's week 1. That's all we got to say about that. Let's get to week 2, man. We got football coming up ahead of us right now, okay? We got a game here. God, we got a game fucking tomorrow, Frankie. Thursday night football. Let's do a little Thursday night football preview. How do you feel about that?
Let's do a little Thursday night football preview, baby. But before we do, we gotta end up, guys, listen up. Johnny mentioned our partnership with that Bet Stamp and Sign Up Expert. Again, just want to call this out. If you're thinking about that Thursday night game and maybe looking for where to place your bet, maybe you're looking for a few bonus bets, maybe you see a sports book that you don't have, that you want to get some free bets, guys, go check out signupexpert.com/frankly to explore that selection of sports books tailored to your region, each with unique offerings. What does that mean? You put in $20, you place your bet, and you come back around and you're going to get a good old bonus bet as long as you don't have that sports book. So it's got to be a new one. But guys, if you're ready to take your sports betting on this Thursday night game to the next level, show some love. Show some love. Show some love to yourself, make a little bit, show some love to us, we make a little bit, and sign up for that particular sports book through my Sign Up Expert link. So, John, I'm all about this Thursday night matchup. Who we got going on here, brother, is the Bills versus that of the Dolphins. Crazy, crazy game. It is an AFC East showdown here. It is going to be fabulous. Again, it's in Miami. What's really cool here, guys, is that the opening line, before we get to fantasy, just want to call out a few items here. Opening line is -1.5 for the Dolphins. That is kind of interesting. And the over-under is 49. So for me, right, Mostert is banged up. Achan's a little bit banged up, right? There's a lot of shit going on with Tyreek and Calais Campbell and the whole thing about the cop and all this crazy shit, right? A lot of stuff is going on. So here's the deal. I'm actually leaning taking Bills here, guys. I'm not saying it's going to hit, but remember when I said that about the Saquon Barkley bet about the 2 receptions? That was kind of nice, right? So what was interesting for this is that the over is 49. What I would do here, John, if I'm looking to potentially place a bet here, I'm leaning to do a tease. And everybody laughs because I love to do a tease. I'm going Bills plus 7.5, and I'm going to take it over 43. Now, guys, I'm also probably going to take just the straight over line. So the over 49, because I really see it being high-flying offenses. Josh Allen has been doing Josh Allen things. He's literally putting everything on his shoulder. Again, this is an AFC East in-division matchup. It's going to be high-flying. So for me, man, that's where I'm focusing if I'm looking to, put a little bet down.
Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about fantasy here. What are we looking at with this game? I mean, we saw, let's start with Buffalo. Obviously, Josh Allen, number 1 quarterback taken, putting the whole fucking world on his shoulders and taking it himself, doing everything he can, man, which I'm a little nervous about because is he going to be able to hold up taking this many shots? He ran the ball quite a bit. Let's talk about the receivers. That's the confusing thing. James Cook, obviously a stud.
Definitely.
He's going to pay off. Yeah, he's getting the volume that we've all hoped he would get. The receivers, what are we doing there? I mean, Curtis Samuel's been banged up all through camp. Had a slow game. Keon Coleman, saw a little bit of him, just a tad. Khalil Shakir, we saw a little bit. I'm nervous that with this receiving core, that's what we're going to see is a little bit of everybody and just a little bit. What do you think? What do we do with this receiving core?
Completely agree. And that's a beautiful way to put it. John, for me, man, I struggle because it's almost like this is also hindering Dalton Kincaid in some aspect as well. Like the ball is being distributed all over the place. A lot of these receivers aren't getting open properly. So Josh Allen is just taking off and running with it, or they're feeding the rock to James Cook or hitting James Cook out of the backfield. So yeah, man, I think at least for the first few weeks, it's going to be a carousel. We could see Keon Coleman get 5 targets and maybe catch 3 for 50 yards, right? And that's kind of a shitty stat line for your receiver flex, right? Or if you're going Curtis Samuel, who's one of my champions, tier 3, he is coming off injury. He doesn't look 100%. And so they're not probably ready to put together all these different packages, which was really crazy when they played not a great defense in that of Arizona. And so like moving forward, when you're playing the Dolphins, you got to be able to put up points. Obviously, the Dolphins ended up playing the Commanders, It wasn't a very high scoring game. It was 17-20. But I think that's an anomaly. I think what we're going to see from the Dolphins is going to be very, very high powered moving forward. But yeah, man, I think for the Bills, it's going to be a little bit of Russian roulette for that receiver room.
Yeah, the receivers, I'm not looking at putting those guys out there unless I really have to. I want to see more of this offense. I want to see how it develops and see where is the target distribution going to go.
Mhm.
It's just too new and it's too different. I think we need to just see it for a while. You didn't draft Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel to have to play them. I would not until you can. And I don't think it's there yet. All right, let's talk a little bit about Miami, man. I mean, obviously, Tua Tyreek stack,
Amazing.
fire that shit up. Oh my God. Yeah, that hit. Yes, that
Yes.
hit. It was beautiful. Are you concerned at all about Mostert and Achane this week?
Yeah. Yes, guys. Yes, this is real. Like they did not practice on Monday. Now, again, you're not supposed to be practicing on Monday when you're playing a Thursday night game, so on and so forth. So I get that. But yeah, man, I mean, Mostert, I believe, has something wrong with his chest. And then, Achane's banged up. And so, listen, dude, if something happens to where these guys are half go, I mean, get ready for Jeff Wilson and Jalen Wright if Jalen Wright's ready. I mean, because this could be where Jeff Wilson shines. We've seen him as a backup to Mostert at the 49ers. We've seen him as a backup here at Miami with that of Mostert and Achane. And so for me, man, I think that honestly, you can't have enough depth at a running back position if you're Miami because you got an old guy with Mostert and a young guy who's soaking wet 170 pounds and Achane. So yeah, I definitely think if anybody has either of those guys, Achane or Mostert, be on the lookout for an alternative start or make sure that you know what's happening with Jeff Wilson, Jalen Wright, as well as those injuries, because you might need to pick somebody up off the waiver wire and plug them in.
Yeah, don't be surprised, Thursday late that you get a notice that one of these guys could be out.
Yeah.
Not saying they're going to be, but just be prepared, be aware, be an active owner and pay attention because you could get that CMC like we did on Monday night and get that CMC news that, holy shit, he's not starting tonight. What? We didn't know that. Pay attention. So just watch that stuff, guys. All right. What about Jalen Waddle? Not a guy we talked about a lot. Not a guy that I'm super excited about. He's just kind of a guy. He's kind of a T. Higgins type player to me. Is this a guy you feel good about rolling out?
Hell yes. Hell yes. Especially if Achane and or Mostert is not there. John, I was shocked actually with how explosive Waddle looked because he was a little bit banged up as well. I mean, dude, he ended up catching all 5 targets for 109 yards. And they also allowed him to basically gave him a rush attempt for 3 yards. So again, he's totally going to be, that's a great call out, very similar to T. Higgins to where you're only going to get 5 targets. You got to make the most of them, right? And he ended up taking the most of them. Sometimes he's going to get 5 targets, have 2 catches for 28 yards. That's what Jalen Waddle is going to be. But yes, man, I'm absolutely firing him up because especially with how abysmal a lot of the receivers were this past week due to the bad quarterback play, I'm really excited about Waddle being a solidified receiver too for your fantasy team.
Let's move on here. Let's look at our starts and sits of the week, guys. Those of you who are new to the Frankly Fantasy family here, we do a little thing. It's our starts and sits, but we call it our hit it's and quit it. All right, so our hit it's and quit it's, these aren't normal guys. These aren't, the typical guys that you drafted. You know damn well you're going to start them. These are guys that maybe a little further down. Maybe it's a flex choice. Maybe it's something, do I start this guy over this guy? We want to give you some info here and give you some starts and some sits that are going to help you out. Frankie, why don't you roll us out with who you want to start this week, baby?
Damn right, baby. I'm looking to hit it and not quit it with these 2 guys. Let me tell you, I'm taking the Washington Commander backfield. You heard it right. I'm lumping these 2 cats in together. I know it's crazy. The reason being Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler have very high potential to be solid plays. The reason being is, guys, they're playing the Giants. The Giants suck. They are super bad, okay? Aaron Jones, again, is a better running back by a lot compared to Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson. Obviously, Austin Eckler in his prime, you could make an argument, but we're not. He's not in his prime anymore. Aaron Jones ran 94 yards and a touchdown against that of the Giants last week in week 1. John, I think that with this 2-back tandem, it is going to be an all-day nightmare with Jaden Daniels, who has shown immense ability to continue to run outside of the pocket. Just beautiful. So my hit-its, man, for this week, one of them are going to be that combined backfield of that of Brian Robinson Jr. as well as Austin Eckler. One other call out, guys, is the reason why I'm lumping them in is because Austin Eckler as well led the team in receptions. I'm not just throwing him out there because he's a name. He ended up having 4 receptions for 50 yards as a running back. That's awesome. And they were pretty much up, like, or at least tied for majority of the time. So that was really cool. And Brian Robinson actually took the lion's share of the load from the rushing perspective with 40 yards and obviously knocked in a tutty. So the touchdown ability is there for Brian Robinson. The PPR game is there for Austin Eckler. Ride it and rock it, baby. I'm hitting those guys.
All right. This week, I am hitting Anthony Richardson. Rich, we got to see him play a bit, and I love it, man. Let me tell you why. 212 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Fine. That's okay. 6 rushes for 56 yards and a touchdown as well. Okay. Let's throw that in for a quarterback. I love that. QB4. All right. He only completed 9 passes, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns passing. Only 9 completions, 9 of 19. So a 47% complete. I can hear you laughing through my AirPods right now. Yes. 47% completion rating. Now, first of all, if that continues throughout the whole season, obviously that's going to be an issue. But where I see that, I see an opportunity. I see an opportunity. He's going to be a better than 47% completion rate. Yeah. Big play passes with a rushing QB is fantasy gold, baby. The passes he did complete were fucking bombs.
Crazy.
He airmailed. I mean, dude, he slipped and just let it go.
60 yards.
Dude, it was like a fucking punt. It was incredible. It was amazing. 60 yards in the air. Perfect dot. Then he missed Adonai Mitchell on 2 other deep ones.
2. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 other deep. I mean, this dude's stat line could have been absurd if he'd have hit those as well. But listen, man, I really like him. I mean, there's a lot of room to improve with the shorter passes, get some dump offs to JT, get him a little more involved. This will evolve in a good way. If we saw this was the raw, throw the paint on the fucking ball on the board and just see what happens. If this is the raw what output of what we get with his rushing and that strength of that arm, I want more, man. I want more. They play the Packers this week. They gave up the 10th most points to a QB in week 1. Yeah, I want that. Put him in there. That's the Packers. They're deflated right now. They've got Malik Willis coming out on the field to play quarterback. I think it's just a great opportunity for A-Rich to really ball out and show off a little bit, man. Introduce himself to the league, you know?
I love it. Love it, John. Dude, my number 2 here, my number 2 hit it, John, is going to be, I'm going to stay in the quarterback room with you. I'm going to go Matt Stafford at Arizona. I know it's crazy. Puka's not there. I know what we talked about. Their top 2 guard or their top 2 tackles are gone. Their backup left tackle, their starting guard, all this shit. What that tells me is they got to get the ball out fast. They got to be effective. They're going to be probably not relying as much on the rush due to that of the offensive line being down. And John, we mentioned it earlier on. Stafford threw 49 times in the first game. In the very first game. That's crazy, man. He had 317 yards and a touchdown to Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp will continue being badass. And here's the other thing, man. We saw what Josh Allen did with no receivers. We saw what Josh Allen did with no tight end play. We saw what Josh Allen did with an above average running back play. He's obviously way better than above average, but it was above average play, right? Which could be there of Kyron Williams, meaning Matt Stafford will need to shoulder this in order to win. So I am all about it in the NFC West showdown. I'm taking Matt Stafford as one of my hits this week, man.
I love me some Zay fucking Flowers.
Zay?
Okay. Zay. We're going to give him some flowers here, man. Didn't have a crazy stat line, and that's why I wanted to put him out here as one of my starts of the week, one of my hit-its. He was 6 of 10, 37 yards, and he had 2 carries for 14 yards. Not a great stat line, but let me tell you something. On this Ravens offense, as good as this Ravens team is and how good they did look, this is not one of those teams that has some shit to figure out and has to wait a while and let's let things play out. They came right out, very first game, week 1 against the Chiefs, the best goddamn team in football. And man, they all looked good. They all looked like they've been doing this for a while. They all looked like they had 2 preseasons. Zay Flowers was the same. And what I love about Zay Flowers, not a gaudy stat line, but there's one number in there that I love. It's the 10 targets. Give me 10 targets a week from Lamar Jackson and that Ravens offense and Zay Flowers. There'll be some games like this where it's only 37 yards. There'll be other games where it's going to be much, much
Plus
more.
100.
Those are 10 quality targets. So I love that, man. They're playing the Raiders at home. Ravens are going to beat up on the Raiders, man. This is going to be a really, really ugly game. They're going to come back. They're going to get revenge of what happened to them losing in Kansas City. I think they're just going to beat the shit out of these guys. I really do. Isaiah Likely, yes, he was the week 1 hero. Again, week 1 is a liar. He's one of those guys I'm going, maybe. Mark Andrews, it was very clear their goal was to shut Mark Andrews down. I don't think they believed that much in Zay Flowers. They wanted to shut Mark Andrews down. They did that. Absolutely. But it left Isaiah Likely wide open as another receiver basically out. That's how I looked at Isaiah Likely was a receiver out there. I don't think you're going to see that all the time. I think he'll flash from time to time. I don't think it's always going to be like that. Zay Flowers is the one. And the Ravens are favored by 9.5 points, man. I love that. Give me the number 1 receiver on a team favored by 9.5 points. He's going to get them there. Start Zay Flowers.
Love it, man. Hey, called that out in Fridays with Frankie, guys. Got it. This is not an overreaction. Zay Flowers is legit. Get ready for some double-digit targets coming your way. John, number 3, hit it. Again, start, guys. Start. And this is one that we fucking called, John. Like we called Nico Collins last year. We fucking called it this year. And I'm telling you, this is the guy. This is really the guy. I believe this. J.K. Dobbins at Carolina Panthers. First off, we said Carolina Panthers. You fire up J.K.'s mom. You fire up J.K.'s cousin Eddie. You fire up J.K.'s dad. You fire up, right? J.K.'s son. I don't even know if he has one, but you're firing his ass up too when they're playing Carolina, okay?
J.K. Jr.
J.K. Jr., right? JKJ. We're JKJ in it. He went crazy in week 1, John. He had 135 rushing yards on 10 attempts, and he had a touchdown. I mean, come on, guys. Like this dude showed so much in a run dominant offense with that of the coach Jim Harbaugh there, man. And Jim Harbaugh, where does he thrive? It's his running attack. J.K. Dobbins took that by storm. Now, again, it is going to be a tandem play until further notice, right? Gus Edwards is going to be there. But the good news is that, again, they're playing Carolina, man. So if they start getting up, that game script is salivatingly good. So for me, man, I think this is a no fucking brainer. Start him in your fantasy leagues, start him in daily fantasy, and enjoy the show.
I would love to argue and fight you on this. I really would, because his stat line is very mirage-y. It's very mirage-y. It's 10 fucking carries. What do you average? 13 yards a carry, Frank? I mean, that's
literally.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not, that's what I'm saying. It's not sustainable. But I can't argue with you because he's playing the Carolina Panthers.
Right.
Yeah. So fire him up this week. We'll talk about his numbers. We'll look how he looks, and then we'll fight about him for week 3. How's that sound?
That sounds good. That sounds great.
But I love it, man. It was so good to see him play, man.
It was.
I just felt so good about that. Yeah. All right, my next hit it, man. This is a guy I wanted to make one of my champions. I really did. And I didn't. I went with his quarterback. But my next hit it is a rookie. I said, wait on a lot of these rookies. Let's see what happens. See if they're involved. Guess what, guys? He's fucking involved. It's Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen, man, I love this guy. I was hoping and praying that he had the role that he actually has, and he does. This week, they're playing Cleveland. They're at home versus Cleveland. Brian Thomas Jr. was 4 for 47 and a touchdown in week 1. It was great to see him involved. He is that guy in the end zone, exactly what we were hoping for. He led the team in receptions. He led the team in target share at 20%. And he was only 15% started in week 1 on fantasy platforms. Guess what, guys? That's going to change this week.
Mm.
Get him out there, put him in your flex, and feel so good about that. The Browns just got beat up. I think there's a lot of issues going on right now. I think there's going to be a lot of finger pointing and blaming. I don't know if they're going to get it together this week, but I think it's a great opportunity for a team that's offense did start to put some pieces together and saw a new offense really start to gel in week 1, which we didn't see a lot of that throughout the entire league. Fire up Brian Thomas Jr., baby.
No, it's cool, man. Just pick somebody against the Browns and wear your fucking Steelers hat. I get it. That's fine. Yep. Brian Thomas, fire him up, guys. Everybody's happy.
Hey, I bet with my mind, not with my heart,
for you.
Frankie. Okay. Yes. Thank
for
you.
you.
All right, man. Let's hear, who are you quitting? Who
Mm.
do you quit in? Who do you not want to start this week? Who are we sitting for you, Frankie?
John, I'm quitting Javonte Williams, and I'm quitting his ass hard. They are playing the Pittsburgh Steelers this coming week for week 2. John, what we saw from Pittsburgh was pure freaking dominance. And I mean, dude, TJ Watt, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be mad at you if you were wearing a TJ Watt jersey. That dude is that special. I mean,
Would you freak out? Would you freak out if I raised up and I was wearing a TJ Watt jersey?
I would honestly applaud you inside, and I would cry. As soon as this was over, I'd cry. And John,
He's awesome.
he's amazing.
man.
He's amazing. The entire defense is amazing. Everything. I mean, it's disgusting. And here's the thing. Pittsburgh held Bijan Robinson to 18 carries, which is a lot, but held him to 68 yards on 18 carries. Bijan Robinson. That is not Javonte Williams with a rookie quarterback and Bo Nix on a very, very sub-average team. On top of it, Javonte struggled against the Seahawks, man. That's what was crazy. He had 8 carries for 23 yards. And here's what's fucking nuts. Jaleel McLaughlin had 15 touches to Javonte's 9. He got out-touched. Nobody's touching him. Everybody's quitting his ass, right? And so, John, it's just between the Pittsburgh defense being really good, Jaleel McLaughlin, the offense is kind of in turmoil right now. They're trying to find their identity. This is not the week to start Javonte. I'm quitting his ass.
My first quit it is going to be, this might surprise you a little bit, Frankie. This is a guy who actually scored one of the 30 touchdowns this past week. Zach Moss, running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, I'm going to sit him this week, man. I really am. They're playing at Kansas City. We saw that Kansas City defense, man. They held Derrick Henry in check. I know Derrick Henry scored, but he didn't do anything after that touchdown. It was really a quiet game for him. Last week, Zach Moss was 9 for 44 and a touchdown in week 1. That was against the Patriots again. Playing a tough D on the road, man. It's Kansas City. You do not want to play an Arrowhead against that Kansas City defense. They're very, very good. The running game is going to struggle. The entire team struggled. I don't see this as being the week that Cincinnati gets their shit together. I think they're going to try to rely on Zach Moss because of how bad the passing game was. I just don't think it's going to work, man. Everybody wants to run the ball. Sometimes you just can't. I think it's going to be game scripted out pretty quickly. I think the Chiefs are going to get ahead pretty quick. I don't think Zach Moss is going to be a factor at all. Chase Brown actually had more receptions than him. So when you're in a negative game script like this, like they're going to be with the Chiefs, it's more likely you're going to see Chase Brown running routes a little more than Zach Moss. So I'm out this week on Zach Moss.
Good call, man. John, my other quit it here is going to be Tajay Spears. Guys, if you have Tajay Spears, he's playing against the Jets. Now, I know Jordan Mason just cut up the Jets, but what I can promise you is it ain't going to be Tajay Spears next week or this coming week, right? The Jets defense is going to get it together. Tajay Spears also had 4 rushes for 21 yards, and he had 4 receptions for 11 yards. The concerning thing is that he was out-touched by Tony Pollard. Actually, Tony Pollard had 11 more touches than that of Tajay Spears, and Tony Pollard looked really solid, man. I mean, it didn't look like a 1A, 1B. It looked like Tony Pollard, and then Tajay came as a change of pace. So for me, I'm not willing to bet Tajay Spears against a defense that's going to be pissed off after they just got their ass whooped by that of the San Francisco 49ers. And you also have, right, Tony Pollard there that's taking a lot away. So again, for me, man, I'm level setting expectations, look elsewhere, and quit Tajay Spears this week.
All right, this one's going to hurt you, Frankie. I know you love this guy, and I typically love him too. But this week, I'm looking for other options if I can do it. I'm talking about Calvin Ridley, wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. They're playing this week. They're playing at home against the Jets. The Jets are pissed off, man.
Pissed.
The Jets are pissed off. Their defense did not play the way that they thought it was going to play. They got beat in the trenches, which is not the way Jets defense plays. I think you're going to see a little, you could see some, maybe a Hassan Reddick signing at this point because they need him in there. They need him in there. But the Jets are pissed off. The Jets are going to come out swinging, man. Calvin Ridley, last week, 3 for 7, 50 yards in week 1. It was okay. He was fine. But I'm not excited about this offense against this great defense who's going to come back pissed off. I think he's going to get lost in the sauce, man. I mean, we're going to see guys all year long get lost in the sauce. And I'm talking about Sauce Gardner on that Jets defense, man. I think it's going to be difficult. I think Ridley may pull a similar line to what he did in week 1, but that's not something I'm excited about either. 3 catches, 50 yards, that might be his ceiling against the Jets. And I'm going to look elsewhere. I'm going to look for something with a little higher ceiling. All right. We're in week 2. We're heading into week 2, just gliding into week 2, baby.
We're rocking and rolling, man. I'm so ready. I'm so ready for redemption. And for those of you, by the way, John, I have to call this out. There's a lot of people that were hitting me up saying, hey, my team sucks. I'm ready to throw it in. Guys, stop it. Okay, it's week 1. Get ready. Get your fucking face paint on. Do a couple push-ups. Get pumped up because we got another week coming. All right? Your team's going to turn around. Listen to some of these hit-its and quit-its and get ready for this Thursday night game because guess what? We got your back and I'm pulling for you. Shit.
That's right. Come on, baby. Frankie's pulling for you. Tune in every week, guys. Every Wednesday, we're dropping an episode and we're going to have the news and notes. We're going to take a look back at what happened, but mostly we're going to focus on starts and sits and moving forward. We want to give you guys as much information as we possibly can to help you win your goddamn league. And guess it's going to take a while. We've got to just chill on a lot of your guys. Some of the guys we talked about, take that information, do with it as you will. We're just recognizing patterns and trying to predict the future based on what we've seen in the past. So chill on some of these guys. Again, these offenses are going to take a while. Some of them are going to just take a while to get going. But we're going to have a lot of fun trying to figure it out, aren't we, buddy?
Oh, definitely.
Let's go.
And guys, don't forget, every Friday we're going to do Fridays with Frankie. Frankie's with Friday. Either way, we're going to do Frankie's with Friday here, guys. And so I'm dropping a quick minute clip for you guys to understand what are some of the top things you need to know heading into your games on Sunday. I won't do so much looking back. We're going to do this looking forward. So tune in every Friday. You're going to see a fun reel heading your way.
That's right. And don't forget to sub up on YouTube, guys. We see all of you watching or listening to us on everywhere podcasts are played, Spotify, Apple, Google, everything. Please watch the YouTube channel, guys. It's been going crazy and it's a lot of fun to watch, man. Frankly, fantasy football. Frankie, any parting words, baby?
None from me, Johnny boy.
All right, let's do it. Let's get into week 2. I love it. May the fantasy gods smile upon you. Bye.